Good morning, boys and girls. How are you today? Well, today we're going to be doing lesson 6.5 in your book, and it's not really that tough of a lesson, but there's just a couple of different things that if you get this, a couple things, it's going to become easy. All right. So the objective for today is we're going to use a strategy called use a formula to solve problems involving distance, rate, and time. So I want to start first of all with that word here, right here, formula in our essential question for the day. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to the vocabulary right here. This is a vocabulary word. The word formula right here. Okay, this word formula. It is a set rule to solve a problem right here that I've just highlighted for you. It's a set rule. So like when you think about rules at school, like we're not to run in the hallways. That's a set rule because if we run in the hallway, we might fall and get hurt. We don't want that to happen, or somebody else might fall and get hurt. So a rule is something that is just set in motion. It's just the way that it is. Like in science, there's a lot of rules that are set in motion that are what they are. In math, we also have a lot of formulas. So we're going to learn this when we get to units of algebra because that's when we use these formulas. So today, we're going to take a formula, and it's right here. D equals R times T. Do you see this? Okay. This is its basic form. Now it can have different forms. You can see here where we've rearranged these letters, and we've rearranged the letters again. We have not had a lot of learning on algebra yet, but when we have a letter that replaces a number, that's called a variable. Okay. So up here it says you can solve problems involving distance, rate, and time by using this formula below. In each formula, D represents distance, okay? R represents rate, and T represents time. We know what time is. We know what distance is, how far you can go. And rate, we actually know what a rate is. A rate is something from chapter 4. We found unit rates, we found rates. Rates are how two different things relate to each other. So for instance, let's take, I can run 5 laps in 10 minutes. That's a rate. Think about the gym at our school here, and Mr. Butler or Mrs. Moberly, and they're making you run 5 laps, and you can do it in 10 minutes. That's pretty slow, actually. But that is a rate. Whenever you have two different kinds of measurement, okay? We've just talked about measurement. We've learned about measurement. These are two different measures, okay? They're not the same. That makes them a rate, okay? So the most common one that we know, though, is miles per hour, right? So if I drive to Ames today and I drive 65 miles per hour, okay, that actually looks like this, 65 miles, put MI for miles, and then I'm going to say over 1 hour, because per means hour. That's a rate where I have a distance and I have a time. And that's the kind of rate that we're going to be working with in this lesson. So before we can even begin to understand how to work the problem that I have here, we need to understand that we have 3 different items that we're going to work with. Okay? So we're either going to be finding distance, we're going to be finding our rate, which is how fast we go, okay? How fast. Or we're going to be finding the time it takes us to get there. Distance, rate, or time. Okay, there's your D, your R, and your T. All right. So depending on what we're looking for, if we're looking for distance, we want to use this formula right here. I put a check mark by, because the distance is all by itself with an equal sign in between the rest of the problem. If I want to find the rate, then I'm going to use this form. I have a form, the same letters, but instead of multiplying, we're using division. If I want to find time, I'm going to do the same thing. You notice the letters, though, have switched, okay? Another way you can write something like this one is T is equal to D divided by R. Remember, this sign means to divide. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our problem and unlock the problem today. It says Helena drives 220 miles to visit Niagara Falls. She drives at an average speed of 55 miles per hour. Before we go any farther, that would be rate, correct? That's the R. Okay, she drives 220 miles, that's distance. Okay, now the question is asking me, always look at what they're asking for. How long? How long is time? So I want to solve for time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my three formulas that I just touched here on the screen, and I'm going to find the one that has time all by itself, which is right here. So I'm going to take time is equal to distance divided by R, rate. Okay, that's not a subtract, that's a divide. I can't get it to work. All right, so let's fill in the unknowns. So I'm going to take the distance, which I'm going to keep the t, is equal to 220 divided by, what is my rate? 55. Okay, so you have a division problem. You have, remember the first one goes in the box, so you have 220. We're going to divide that by 55. Okay, doesn't go into 2, it doesn't go into 2, so it has to go all the way into 220. Now I'm going to guesstimate about 50, so 50 times 4 is 200. So let's try 55 times 4. I'm running out of room to work here. That's, I get 220. So my answer is going to be 4. So the answer to my problem, so I've run out of room down here, so give me a moment just to erase for just a second. I'm going to erase my problem here because I want to make sure that we write this correctly, okay? We're going to write t is equal to 4. We need to make sure we name whatever that variable is needs to be named. T is going to be equal to 4. So I know that the time that it's going to take is 4 hours because in the rate you see the word hour, okay? That's how we find an answer based off of a formula and variables. This is very new to you, and I understand that. It's literally, you've got to find what you're looking for and then use the right form of the formula. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do another problem. This is on the next page of our lesson for today. It says, try another problem. Are you there? If not, I can wait. Stop the video and just turn the page. Okay. Santiago's class traveled to the Museum of Natural Science for a field trip. To reach their destination, the bus traveled a rate of 65 miles per hour in 2 hours. What distance did San Diego's class travel? I'm not going to look at the formulas. I'm going to put a D out here, and I'm going to put an equal sign. D is equal to. Now, look up here and find the formula. Which one matches? It's the first one. D is equal to rate times time. So I must have the rate and the time in the problem. So I have 65 miles per hour, that's my rate, and I'm going to multiply, and I have 2 hours. Okay, to find the distance, all that I have to do is I have to multiply. So I have 65 times 2, which is 10 and 12 and then 13. So D, remember we're going to name our variable, is equal to 130. I'm going to go up to the rate, which has miles per hour. It tells me that I'm going to label this as miles. Okay, boys and girls, it's really important that you label what you are working with. So in your rate here will have your miles and your time, your distance and your time, because those are the two other factors. All right, boys and girls, today we learned how to use a formula and variables and fill in those numbers from our problem. Look for the clues to tell us what to solve for and to solve the problem. Thank you, boys and girls. Have a good day. Happy math.